Okay, afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone was able to finish the assignment from last week. Um, Before we start the lecture, would anyone want me to go over their work from last week? Okay. So, I can see that you got some of the features correct. The loops around the eyes, loops around the mouth, a little bit of this coming in from this side, but like it doesn't follow up into the other eye. Um, a lot of this, like this right here, should have kind of followed over to the other side of the nose. It's very like not symmetrical in like the layout and like you can see right here how this is kind of getting stretched out a little bit. Um, it like some of this is good that like you're trying to follow this up right here, which is good. But some of this could have come down here. Like you have random edges like just appearing like in spots like right here. Like you can easily delete this right here and just bring all these back up into the eye. Even the loop around your mouth isn't a full loop. It kind of starts and ends. You don't have the mask around the eye. Um, it's a good first attempt. Right here, like you don't have this is 4 5-sided face. But I kind of wish you looked at the reference images a little bit more and kind of followed along with what they did. Um,
I was trying to do everything to be like square, then it's like automatically to triangle for some reason, and I trying to remove that, and it's kind of hard to.
uh, why was it difficult to remove them?
Like once I remove the triangle, it's there's another triangle the other side. It's I don't know how to like.
Um,
This has to be like all the squares, right?
you try and want to keep it as square as possible.
Yeah.
Um, if you look on my board and look at 3D geometry, you can see like you can just like there's a bunch of like reference images and that you could kind of follow along with it. It kind of just seemed that like you kind of got like stuck. You were just like, it looked like for me, it like you were afraid of deleting faces, and you kind of just like continued on and just filled in and made the squares instead of like looking at like a reference image and saying like, all right, I gotta make this circle around the eye and like do it that way, and then kind of follow along with this.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Um, but it's like it's a good first attempt. Hopefully, when we continue on with the your self portrait, that you can take some of the like troubles that you might have had and like improve on that. It just seems like right here, you could have just deleted the edge. And like it just seems like you kind of probably like what I see. It kind of seems like you put some of these down and like lost where you're going, and you just said like, all right, let me put a vertice right here and make it four-sided instead of like following along with the edge flow.
Right, thank you.
Yep. Who would like to go next? Brian. This is good. So you can see loops around the eyes, loops around the lips, the mask around the nose. You can see that like it has the edge right here, so you can like make the cheeks. One thing I noticed right around here, this is where it kind of gets a little stretched out, and this is where you could have had, I think, a like a five-sided like upright around here to add that to reduce like all this stretching up around here. Let's see if I can. It's a little messy, but you can see how like you could have added like another five-sided. It probably should have been up here, maybe, but like you could have added a few more edge loops right around here to get this section right here a little less stretched out. It feels like you're trying to keep it as like low poly as possible, but this section is getting like a little bit stretched out, if that makes sense. Like these squares are a tidbit bigger than the rest of them, and it's more or less adding that like extra five-sided like that star. Section around like the temple probably would have helped fix that out, instead of like maybe that was right around here. It just seems that like you could have reworked this section right here, but besides that, it seems to be, it looks good. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Ian McIntosh.
Right here?
Yep, that's right.
So this is just like a small nitpick. It's good. Everything's fine. It's like this right here. Isn't like this side is a lot better. You can see how it kind of just goes in, like it just goes around. Like this could make a dimple impression weird. Like if it like went up, it could make a kind of like an indentation in the mesh, with that kind of shape. It just seemed, I think what it is just like you would have to get rid of like an edge loop right here and something like over here to get rid of that. But everything else, like, it looks good. Like you could have added another edge loop or so around the mouth, but like it's not a huge issue.
For sure. Cool,
but,
thank you.
Yep. Looks good. Who wants to go next? Does anyone want to go next? All right. If no one else wants to go, we can hop onto the lecture then. Cool. So we're going to be starting our final today. For your final, you will be doing a self-portrait. All we need, you'll be doing is modeling out a self-portrait, lighting, rendering it, and sending me a 1920 by 1080 render of your face. All you have to do is like down to your neck, but if you want to do your shoulders or anything else, that's more than welcome. But what I'm looking at is face and neck for your final. So the first thing what you want to do is take some reference pictures of yourself. I mentioned last week, it'd be great if you started and got a front and side picture of yourself. I have a few images of myself. I took a few extra pictures just in case. The the key feature of taking a like reference image is you want to make them as straight as possible, and like about from the same distance when you take it, because if you're a little bit closer, the angle of the lens will kind of change, and you want it to kind of be like in line with your face. So I'm just going to start off with one of these. I'm going to first open up Photoshop, go to New, and create a 2x1 image. So it doesn't really have to be any specific size, but I'm going to do 2000 width by 1000 height. I'm doing this because I want to create a front and side in our image. So in Photoshop, you can create a ruler around your canvas by going to View, Ruler, or Control R to pop up the ruler. And I want to create a marker, a line down the middle. And you do that by selecting inside one of the rulers and dragging it over. So now we have two even squares, 1, 2, and they're both a 1x1 square inside our Photoshop file. I'll choose one of my image, drop it into the canvas. And press. Sure. Okay, so it's really helpful if you shoot your photograph on a flat background, because what we're going to do next is remove the background. So there's a few ways of doing that. You can use the magnetic wand tool and select lots of the area. You can increase or decrease the tolerance to change the selection. I like to create layer masks when I work in Photoshop as much as possible. What's cool about layer mask is you can get rid of something, but it's never gone. I can bring it back by painting white in the black area. White adds. Black removes. Another way to get rid of the background is using the magnetic lasso. So right here, I'm holding left click down to magnetic lasso. And it kind of like snaps to the contour of the shape of objects. And once again, mask. I got rid of the background. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, I've never been so mad about a tool in my life.
Okay, so the next thing what I want to do is I want to make sure that my face is symmetrical, or at least as symmetrical as possible. So I put this line down the middle of my face, and you can see that my head is actually slightly tilt to the left a little bit. So what I'm going to do is do Control T for the transform tool, and I'm going to kind of try and align my face as close as possible to be level, like left to right. I know everyone's face isn't completely symmetrical, but trying to get as much as possible symmetrical will be really helpful. You might want to take multiple pictures. Like imagine, like if I was actually facing, like turning instead of like tilting my head to the left, but my face was tilted a little bit to the left. That might change the perspective. So you might want to take multiple pictures. But you can see that in my photograph, it's pretty in line. My ears aren't completely symmetrical. I might be tilt a little bit to the left, but it's not the end of the world. My mouth is somewhat symmetrical. So that is, this image right here is good. So what I'm going to do now is select another picture, one of my side pictures. It doesn't really matter which side it is, if it's left or right, it doesn't really matter as long as it's as level as possible. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go and select the magnetic wand tool, select all the background information, invert it. Now this is the more tricky part of this step. What I want to do is I want to make sure that my left and front side of my face are the same. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting this into Photoshop, and it needs to be perfectly in line with each other. And how I do that is by bringing it into Photoshop, having it in one document, and finding reference points on one side and trying to match it up with the other side. So you can see that I created some plumb lines going from the mouth, underneath my nose, my eyes, my eyebrow, about where my chin is. You can also do like where your chin starts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this right here. So you can see that my eye is a little bit lower than where the eye is. The start of my nose isn't where the start of my nose is. So you can see that this face right here isn't completely symmetrical. So I'm going to scale it up a little bit and then do some double checking. So the eye matches up with the eye. The eyebrow is okay. But the mouth, it's a little off. So just scale it down a tidbit. So all these are pretty much matching up. Does this make sense to everyone? I'm guessing that's a yes. So now what I like to do is I kind of like using a gradient background. I don't like white. So I create a layer. I'm going to select the gradient tool. I did white to blue. And I'm just going to just create a nice fall off. It kind of helps, at least my eye, see the value a little bit better. But now what I'll do is I will save this as my front and side view reference image. Before I do that, I will go and open up Maya, File, create reference. Oops. Project window, sorry. New. Final. Desktop, accept. File. Save as. JPEG, desktop. Final. Source images. We call it reference. File, set project, final. Now what I will do is create a plane. And in this plane, I'm going to scale it up from 1 to 1, 1, 2, sorry. 2, 1, 1. Create a Lambert. Call it reference material. Color. Click on the check mark. File. And now my front and side are on a single image. And I did this by scaling in the X by 2 because what Maya does is it always tries to force an image into a 1 by 1 square. So if this was a normal default image, it would be like this. And it would squish it to like half the size. But since my image, my reference image was a 2 by 1 image, I'm stretching the UVs by scaling it by 2 in the X. So now you don't have to re-UV this. Does that make sense to everyone? can see that this was our 2x1 image, and it gets shrunk to a 1x1 square. Now I'm re-shrinking it or re-expanding it by just scaling my object to be a 2 by 2 in the X. And then freeze the transforms. So now it's all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We can scale this up to whatever size we want. And separate it so it's 2 separate objects. So you can either duplicate the object and delete one side, and then delete the other side on the other object. So you would have 1, 1. Or what you can do is take your object, select the edge, down the middle, mesh. Detach components, edit mesh, detach. Then go mesh, separate, and now you have 2 separate objects. Don't forget to delete the history and freeze the transforms. And now what I'm going to do is put them in the right axis. So we're going to select both of them, rotate 90 degrees, take my front view, put it in the middle of the world, put it back right here, and take my side view and rotate it 90 degrees in the Y. Put it about right here. The major thing that you have to do is never change the Y of both of these without changing the other one. If this one is a little bit higher, you're going to be fighting your model, because now this guy isn't perfectly in line with your other object. If you're going to raise either of these up, raise them uniformly. So both of their Y's, or whatever this axis is to your object, is the same. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking from the front view at our model and the side view of our model. And the eye, like all of the features, have to be in line with each other. So you can see that like my nose matches up, my mouth matches up, the chin matches up. Everything matches up with each other. If this was a little bit higher, it's not matching and you're going to be fighting yourself. Does that make sense to everyone? This is a major component of making your face. It's getting the references solidified, like correct. Okay. If no one has any comments, we'll move on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these planes, and I'm going to click on this right here and to create a new layer and call this reference layer. And I'm going to click the third button twice, so it shows R, and that means it's a reference. You can't select it. It's only just a reference image. One thing to note, you can delete these edges. So it's just the exterior border. It might be easier to see if you're going to be doing like edge view or anything with your model. So feel free to delete these edges. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start modeling the face. And there's a few different ways of modeling. Normally, how I would do it, I would start off with a block and transform it into the mesh. But I find it's the easiest for students to kind of do a polygon push and pull extrude out a single face at a time method. So what I want you guys to do is create a plane and change the subdivision width and height to be 1. And move this box right underneath the eye. Next, delete the history, freeze the transforms, and move the center pivot of your box to the middle of the world by holding D and X. X is grid snap. And just snap it either right here, or you can snap it to the complete origin of the world. So next thing what we'll do is we'll create a reference, a duplicate object on the opposite side of the world by going to Edit, Duplicate Special, clicking the box, and choosing Instance, making sure number of copies is 1, and scale it in the, I believe, -1s. And click Apply, yes. So now we have 2 single boxes in our scene. And since the first we did an instance, whatever I do to this box, the next box is going to do the exact same thing. And vice versa, if I select this box and move it, it's going to move the other box as well. Any questions so far? Okay. So this is a option. I kind of like doing this, but I kind of like having a different material than the default Lambert, and I also like keying the transparency so I can adjust the transparency of the object real quickly. So to do that, open up the Hypershade, create a new Lambert. You can call this like face material, and assign it to both of the objects. So select both objects, right click the face material, assign material to selection. So the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to have our timeline right here and change it to something either you can do 10 or 100, you can do 20, just something like a little bit like an even amount of numbers. Let's do 10. And what we can do is key the transparency in the timeline of this material. So I'm going to move the key to the to 1. I'm going to right-click transparency and set key, and then I'm going to move it to 10 and change the transparency of. Make sure face material is selected. I had it on Lambert. Key transparency. And we can know that it's keyed because the box from over here, instead of a checkered, it becomes the input, the box with the arrow. Move to 10 and change transparency to completely white. And then right-click transparency, set key. Next, while face material is selected, go to Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor, and change the spline of your curve instead of like in and out to linear, this straight line. So now when you scrub the timeline, your material is going from 100% visible to 0. So it's an easy way of adjusting the transparency of your object without either selecting it and then you turn it off, or you can changing it in the hypershade, going back and forth. Does that make sense to everyone? Do I have to repeat anything?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing something similar to our homework assignment. We're going to be pretty much drawing the our face and keeping in mind like the specific shape of these patterns, these reference images that I've sent you. So by doing this, all we have to do is either extrude the plane out or use multi-cut tool and add an edge loop. So you can see that I'm going to take this and create that circle around my eye. So all I'm doing is selecting the edge, holding shift and dragging, and it extrudes out a new face. And then I'll adjust the vertices so it kind of wraps around, back to edge, shift, extrude. So instead of snapping the vertices together like with the modeling toolkit, all you have to do is bridge them. So you select this edge, shift select this other edge, and then shift right click, bridge, and it'll fill in that gap. So now you can see in the front view, everything looks good. We have the loop around the eyes, but if we go to the side view, we can notice that it's just flat. It's not matching up with our reference image. And this is what you'll have to do is you'll draw something out in one of the sides and readjust it to match up with the location of that on the other side of your face. So you can see that right here in my image, it's about right here. This vertex is about right here on this part of the face. And I'm going to do that again right here, right here. So I'm using my side view as a reference and my front view at the same time, and kind of looking at this vertex and matching it up with where it was in the other part of the reference. This part of the face is probably the most difficult because it's tucked behind your eyeball, so you kind of have to just play by eye at the start. You see that I'm kind of like checking back with transparency of the object to kind of see where this is on the side view. Putting it back to full. And then I'll start continuing along with the face. I'll extrude this down a few times. Scale this in so it's flat, and I'm going to hold X and adjust this so it's now right here. So now I have this U connecting the face, and I'll do the same thing with the eye, with this part. I'll just start matching up what I see on the front view and the side view. So you can see that this is in the indent of my mouth. Move this up a little bit. This right here is the high part. Go right here, right here. This goes down a little bit. This is right underneath where the nose starts. So that's right about here. So I'll just move that forward. Same thing right here. You can look at it in 3D, start seeing how it comes together. I'll now do the lip around my mouth. So I'll take this, extrude it down. I kind of want these two vertices to connect. So what I can do is select both of them. Shift right click, merge vertices, and it's going to snap to the middle. The key thing at this part of modeling is you're kind of just blocking in the shapes as broad as possible, so you don't feel like you have to create like 100 faces down here. Keep it as low poly as possible, and you can easily add more as you continue along modeling your face. But the biggest thing to do is keep as low poly as long as you can, because it's a lot easier to change things when things are low poly than high poly. So I'm coming back right here. Just the side of my mouth. Start my lip. So go up here. So you can notice that some things aren't completely matching up. It's perfectly fine. Just in your head, choose one of the sides and make that like the master side. So like for me, the front is the most correct. So I want to make sure that everything kind of matches up with the front. Like right here, the lip isn't completely matching up, but just kind of make it go about where it should go. Like you can see it, like with this image, I have my mouth open a slight amount, but compared to this being completely closed. So I can go and add an edge loop right here and just take these vertices and move them in. So you can see I'm starting to get some shape around my face. I'm keeping low as possible. I'll go up here. I'll connect the eyes. Scale down, hold X, snap to the middle. I can add some edge loops. right here. This goes right here. Next one comes up a little bit. Take this edge loop, kind of like straight it down a little bit. Start marking out your nose. Do this right here, bridge right there. So now I have the contour of my nose. One of my teachers always told me work on, when I was painting, work on the entire project at once. And when she said that, I kind of took it as you want to work as much, like work on everything, kind of like try and build the entire thing and then go into the detail after you put down at least some color everywhere. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to get at least the contours of my face down as much as possible. And then I can start really going into the nitpick of, all right, is this the right shape of the mouth or whatnot? I just want to try and get as much of like good like framework of my face as possible, and the contour is always the easiest. Right here, I'm going to do the side of my mouth. And I'm trying to follow my chin around, so I'll take this, kind of push it back. Bridge this and maybe add 1 or 2 edges right here. Maybe 3. Kind of look at where this is in my face. on my forehead a little bit. See, this is pretty far back. Same as this. It's about in the middle of my eyebrow. Just go back and forth, looking at your face and look 3D, how it feels. And then edge leap right here, kind of checking back and forth. Where things are. Bridge this in. Start working on the eyes a little bit. Kind of just like a socket where your eyeball goes in, and then it kind of just scales out a little bit. You can kind of skip that at the moment, or if you want to add your eyeball in, you can. Just take a sphere. I kind of like rotate it 90 degrees so I can see like the circles facing me. And your eye is actually quite large. It's about this size. In your head, might be a little bit. That might be a little big. We can assign our face material to it so we can see through it a little bit better. But it's kind of helpful because like your face, your eyes, like socket area is kind of wrapping around the eyeball. So you can see that like this stuff right here isn't completely correct. It should be like kind of hugging the eye, so it kind of helps you figure out how some stuff. You can press 3 and to get into the smooth mode, and you can see some helps you find some form. So you can see how like this, I can start pulling this a little bit in different directions to match up. I want another like edge loop right around here. So I kind of have some bags underneath my eyes. So like my eyelid kind of goes and creates this fold. So what I can do is create another edge loop right here and select some of these edge loops and kind of push it back and up. You can duplicate the eye to the other side by holding down D and X and moving the pivot point to the middle of the scene. Edit, duplicate special to mirror across. Sometimes it's helpful to see the eyes in it. The eyes really give you a lot of the realism of yourself. Before you move too far with the eyes, I would suggest adding a little, it's kind of like your eye kind of has a dome-like shape, like this, to it. It's not a complete circle, it kind of like ovals out. Nipples out at the end, so that kind of helps with some of the realism. Sometimes I don't want to see this, so I can put on another layer and hide it. So as I add some more vertices, I might adjust the spacing of edges. Don't feel that like once you put something in a certain location once, it has to stay there. You can easily adjust it as you add more topology to it. I'm just kind of like looking at how things are going. And I want to keep this loop around the eye and then a loop like the mask around the face. So right here is just what I'm trying to do for the mask. Since I started low, I can easily add edge loops in my geometry, and it doesn't really bulk stuff up. So you can see that right here is a very stretched out. So I would want to add some more edge loops and kind of readjust this to even stuff out a little bit more. So I might like adjust this over. And then recheck where it should be. You can see I have this loop so you can see that when I press 3, this right here kind of doesn't look smooth compared to everything else. There's some sort of like an edge that's not completely merged with each other, or there's some weird like artifact between. Mainly, I know this because this right here looks like this instead of being smooth across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some of these vertices and go merge vertice. And if nothing really fixes it, sometimes I might have to go and delete some of these faces. So you saw how I deleted 2 faces, and if I rebridge these faces, you get rid of that weird like crink in the edge flow. So now if I select this edge loop, I have that loop around the mask around the face, eyes, kind of loops around. This loops around here. And I'm slowly building stuff up. I can kind of notice that my face is very narrow over here, so I'm just, like looking at it in 3D mode and kind of adjusting some stuff as I go. You notice I have a lot of history in my inputs, and if you notice that your computer is running kind of slow, just go and delete the history. All that stuff will disappear, and modeling should pick back up. Continue bridging some things. Going to look right here and kind of adjust. Well, I placed everything. Look at it from the top and kind of like you can also feel your face and kind of feel like if stuff is in the right place. There will be a hard seam right here because this object is not combined. Once we're finished with both the sides, we'll combine the middle. And you might have to readjust a few small things, but just take note. It's perfectly fine to be like that. So that's pretty much the basic idea of this technique of modeling on the face. If no one has any questions, you're free to go. I would hope that you would have a good solid chunk of the face modeled by next week. We'll be going over UVing the face and texturing the face next week. So if you keep up with me, you won't have any issue for your final. But if you wait for the last minute, you might be a little overwhelmed. Does anyone have any questions for me or want me to go over anything that I talked about today? If not, you guys are free to head out, and I will see you guys next week then.